Welcome to Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded, the podcast for the prepared with your hosts, Scott, Shane, and Paris. We're here. We're excited. We got a packed show. We're going to talk a lot about what's going on in the economy right now. One of our favorite topics is precious metals, gold and silver. We're going to do a little bit of discussion on that. And before we do that, though, we just want to remind everybody to go to preppertalkradio.com and click on the resources tab, and then put in your email address and get access to all the resources we have, the free downloads. We have all kinds of lists for different kits. We have all kinds of ways to help you manage and organize your food storage. So some great free materials there for you. Also, our Facebook group at Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance. We'd be happy to have you there and come over and chat and talk. And some of the questions actually we're going to be answering, talking about maybe one of the questions today came from the group or came from one of the comments on our one of our socials. So we're grateful for that. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please give us a review. We'd love to hear 5 stars if you feel like we deserve it. But thank you so much for those that have given reviews so far, and we look forward to more reviews. Our friends over at survivalfrog.com have tons of great resources, tons of great stuff for you to help you. So use Prepper Talk 10. That's Prepper Talk, the number 10 at survivalfrog.com to get 10% off your order over there. Thank you guys so much. Let's get started. So we're going to talk about the economy today. As of this recording, we've had a significant roller coaster ride in the stock market, haven't we, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, those that are in the stock market, I suppose, have had one.
But I haven't. I'm well diversified outside.
That's true. Me too.
It's interesting because, like, every time I have a conversation with anyone about the stock market, they're like, "Oh, you're missing out," or "Oh, this is so bad." It's so funny how polar swings their take is on any given moment on the stock market. They're either absolutely thrashed and stressed, or they're just like, "Yeah, this is amazing." But what's funny is over the last 2 years, like the S&P from 2023 had a 23% increase.
Mm-hmm.
In 2024, they had a 24.9% increase. So almost a 50% increase in the stock market in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I didn't take advantage of any of that. Oh, well. But here's the thing. We're poised for a crash.
Mm-hmm.
We're like absolutely poised for a crash. And it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be bad as usual. It's never pretty, but it's it's time. I think we've propped up so long. I think we're within a year we will see a significant crash, whether it's this year or in early 2026. We're primed.
Well, there is an awful lot of talk about an upcoming market crash, and not just by us typical, conspiracy theorists, right? We're always talking about that. We've seen that it's been overvalued for years and years and years. And so that's one of the reasons I won't touch it.
It should have crashed a long time ago.
Exactly. And it did, 2008, that's where it should have kept going, right? But it was propped up. Anyway, at my age, having traveled around the sun almost 53 times, I have no tolerance for risk. I really don't. And so that's why I buy gold and silver. But just in listening to the things that pop up on the YouTube and just all the commentary, there's so much talk about, the stock market's going to crash, about, and that's one of the reasons why we're talking about the current economic conditions right now, or kind of an update, because of so much that's being talked about. And it, some of that can be self-fulfilling, right? And so that's one of the reasons why they don't want to mention, we're in recession, or, and we have been, and a lot of us have been, and the elite obviously haven't been, but that's neither here nor there. But it's the buzz that I'm hearing around.
Well, what's interesting is last year, Warren Buffett, so Berkshire Hathaway, sold like 124 billion. My number's probably off here, but the largest single corporate tax payment was made by Berkshire Hathaway to the federal government because they sold off so much stock. I think it was Bank of America and Citigroup and some other stuff, but they'd held these big positions, and he's moved to cash. Many positions he's moved to cash. And what's happened with the market? It's going nuts. Why? Because big movers and players like that, they facilitate change in the market.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All they have to say is, "Oh, Doge bad," and the market shifts whichever way that their followers run. I remember when Elon Musk got involved with that stupid Dogecoin, and he'd throw out a tweet and value would jump up a few $1,000s in a day or something like that. It was stupid. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? That's how the
And then when he announced
stock
that you
market
could buy a Tesla with Doge, that was another time when it jumped quite a
Mhm.
bit.
And now, do we want to talk about him now? Now he's lost over $100 billion in net worth because he's involved with the
He never
Department
had
of
it.
Criminal.
Never had it in the first place, right?
Right.
It's just numbers on a computer screen. It's not even numbers on a paper, right?
Well, it's not tangible is the thing. And that's your point.
Exactly. One of the reasons why I don't participate. But depending on which way we want to take this, obviously now there's a lot of protests out there for Tesla and the cars and the dealerships, and that's all ridiculous. Because now, Musk, who was Democrat at one point, is now Republican, and who is supposedly doing some good stuff. And so the left is protesting, makes no sense. And now
they were all about the Tesla electrical cars and save the environment. And now they're like,
yeah, exactly. Let's burn them and let's sell them and get rid of them. And
we don't want space exploration or Teslas anymore because we feel betrayed by our fearless leader. Like, come on. Oh, it's crazy. The whole market's stupid.
What's mostly crazy is that people are willing to be so influenced by that kind of thing. That's the idea of a prepper, the idea of a stoic is to not be so moved by the winds of change. Winds of change come, and there should be we should set our sails based on the winds of change. However, not to the point where we're like completely changing our whole code, our whole moral code, or our whole attitude about our whole worldview. And so it's just wild to me. I think that's regardless of political party. It's just people who get influenced so easily, so quickly. If that's you, probably not you. You're a listener to Prepper Talk Radio, so if that's some of your friends, you're like, gosh, come on, take a deep breath, and the sky's not falling. Chicken Little is not around, anymore.
Well, in my opinion, to participate in this economy, in trading, in investing, use the air quotes, investing, which is, in my opinion, is just gambling. You got to go by the numbers. It is definitely an emotional market right now. That's, people buy it because they think it's going to go up and they're going to sell it for more, not because it's anything of value, right? It's overvalued, and it's just speculation, not based on true value. And that's basically what Warren Buffett, he's a value investor, and that's why he's holding cash, because he doesn't see value in the markets. And so
not as much. Yeah,
exactly. He's looking for those buys.
Speaking of that, let me show that picture I showed you guys earlier real quick, because I think there's something that's neat on it that we can talk about. So this is the top 10. I don't know if it's the top 10 wealthiest people, but it's the top 10 people in they're all of these, like Elon Musk. This is a list. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see Elon Musk is the top, and then it's Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, Bernard Arnault family, Warren Buffett, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, and Amancio Ortega, and Steve Ballmer. So 10 of the world's wealthiest people. And on Monday, this was put out that Monday, Elon Musk lost $22 billion in net worth. Everybody on this list lost over $1 billion just in one day in the market shift, except Amancio Ortega. He lost $500 million, and Warren Buffett actually gained $500 million. So when everybody else was losing, Warren Buffett gained $422 million. So,
well, what's interesting is if you look at the list, who's the only one that actually has the ability to sway the stock market? It's Warren Buffett, right?
Yeah.
He's been winning on the stock market for years. Ray Dalio actually just dropped a video the other day talking about what's happening, what's going on. He's like, and this goes back to Shane's point, like the biggest thing with the stock market is there's so many trends, there's so much speculation that it's about the same today as going to the track was in the 70s and 80s. you go to the track and your guess is as good as anybody else's on which horse is going to win. And at any given point, it could be the long shot that wins. It's like the stock market's the same way, and it's because of speculation, rumor, and all these bot systems that are either overvaluing or undervaluing or forcing moves. Now, keep in mind, everyone listening, we are not financial advisors. This isn't financial advice. This is our opinion on what's happening. But even Ray Dalio is like, yeah, keep your eyes peeled because this isn't how it should be working. These are all indicators of a big market correction. And I'm like, sweet.
People are so scared of missing out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that fear of missing out, the FOMO. It's, you know, and that's one of another reason why I'm not in the markets is I wanted to be able to sleep at night, right? I'd like to keep my blood pressure down. You know, my health is more important than my my pocketbook. And for other people, it's not necessarily the case. And so I'm not missing out because I'm invested. My savings is gold and silver, and investing in gold and silver, maybe that's not the right word, but I save in gold and silver.
You brought up Ray Dalio a minute ago, Scott, and he just came out with a new book. I'm sure that How Countries Go Broke. He's got it on pre-order right now. How Countries Go Broke: Principles for Navigating the Big Debt Cycle, Where We Are Headed, and What We Should Do. And that comes off of his last book that he wrote. And this is, I'm sharing a screen here real quick. If you want to, I think you can go to economicprinciples.org and sign up to get on his email list. It's worth it. I'm on it. But what's interesting is he talks about how that comes off his last book, which is the world currencies and how those change, the 6 cycles, the cycles of world currencies. And we're on that 5th, 6th cycle. We're the world reserve currency is in America at the dollar, but we're at a position where if something drastic doesn't happen, which there's talk about some things drastically happening, but so we'll see. But if we don't do something, we could be in that final cycle before we are no longer the world currency and things move into whoever comes up next is the next world currency. And a lot of the companies like the BRICS nations and these other ones, they're on alert. I know that Trump said, hey, we're going to stop that, and it's dead in its tracks. But they bought gold and silver for a reason, because and there it goes back to that old saying, he who has the gold makes the rules. And I'm still waiting to see what Fort Knox did anybody ever, did we ever find out if Fort Knox actually had any money in it, any gold bars in it?
I doubt we'll ever hear anything for a reason, right? I don't know if I go into that, but talking about the BRICS, Trump said, if you continue to pursue another currency, we're going to put 100% tariffs on you. I think these countries that are part of the BRICS already have a lot of gold, and that is their currency. If you ask me, it's not going to, they might actually come up with their own currency, but I believe the premium currency is going to be gold, especially between countries, because it's something that you don't need much trust, right? You send it off to Switzerland, you get it recast into kilobars, and it comes back with its assay and surveys and the serial numbers and such. And so there's 100% trust in that. And right now in the world economy, in the currencies, there's very little trust going on. And that's why I think there's so much volatility right now in currencies. I mean, the US dollar has been, I wouldn't say crash. I mean, it's down from 107 to like 103 something right now. That's pretty significant in just the past month or so, past few weeks. And everything is just in turmoil right now. If you're watching, if you're just living your life and watching the mainstream news, everything seems to be fine. There's an article here and there that maybe open your eyes a little bit, but that news is making the mainstream more often now than it used to. And so that should be a sign. That should be an eye opener saying, oh, hey, they're talking about gold. Usually they're just talking about Bitcoin, right? They're hyping Bitcoin, even though it's going down. But gold it should be in the news more. There should be more hype, but it's there.
Well, Ray Dalio pointed out that gold is the 3rd strongest reserve currency right now.
Right now
in our market, gold is the 3rd strongest reserve currency.
It really does.
The US dollar, the euro, then gold, and then the Japanese yen.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, and we're on the precipice of what he calls a debt spiral. I watched a lot of stuff on from him, but I also watched a really interesting video from Australian finance last year on what's going on with America and how the whole world is hanging on the edge of a precipice, not knowing exactly what's going to happen because we're all waiting on America. And I'm like, okay, what's the backing of this? Well, they talk about debt reserves, they talk about spending, they talk about the biggest problem is that the US is in a state where they're borrowing money to pay the monthly payment of the debt they have because the debt is so large. That if this keeps up they're predicting by 2053, I think that's way too far away. But by 2053, the whole world will have a financial collapse, a global collapse because of the US economy. And that they're
I don't
like,
think we can prop it up for another 20 years, dude.
I don't think so either.
Not even close.
I think
2 would be pushing it.
I think we're lucky to get 4.
Seriously.
This is the most gloomy I've ever been about a financial forecast in my lifetime. But I'm also extremely excited because it will correct everything. It will hurt, it will suck, but it will correct everything. And after watching the Australian video, going back to Ray Dalio, he was saying the only thing that can really, really fix this is a combination of a depression and stimulus. They need to depress spending at the government level and stimulate spending at all levels. So there's only 2 ways to do that. They need to raise taxes to depress spending at the government level, or simply lower their spending at the government level. At the same time, they need to ease monetary policy, which is increase cash into put more fake money out there, right? Or provide a stimulus in refunds, reset, different things like that. And also the last thing is to actually decrease interest rates. And I'm like, the only way this could all work is if interest rates come down a little bit so that spending is less expensive, right? Borrowing is less expensive. But also, if we look at what Trump's doing, which I'm like, okay, maybe he is a mad genius, maybe. Or maybe he's a psycho trying to completely destroy the whole thing. Jury's out. But if he's raising taxes right now by doing the tariffs, if those last more than 3 months, it could be detrimental to our economy. If they only last 3 months, it could be enough to really boost our economy, meaning it could force lower interest rates. He's also using Doge to decrease spending and the taxes. So he's hitting all 3 factors according to Ray Dalio. And I'm like, oh, this could be, if used right, this could be great. If used wrong, this could be sooner the end than I was preparing for.
I don't know if you guys saw that. Canada was like, their new prime minister came up and said, we're going to put a huge tariff on some electricity coming into the United States. I'm like, how do we have another country providing our citizens with electricity? First of all, that's whack.
Democratic
Secondly,
policy.
is they're gonna either shut down that electricity to those people or provide a significant tariff unless Trump stops the tariff that he imposed on them. Well, that was his big, he's coming out all strong, Mr. Prime Minister of Canada. Well, I don't know if you saw, but like in the last, I don't know, this is all happening so fast. Like this is from one day to the next, even sometimes from morning to afternoon. It's a whole new world. But then all of a sudden, it comes out that Trump says, no, if you do that, we're going to tariff the living daylights out of your steel coming into the country. We're going to, we're going to tariff the cars coming in, and that's going to basically shut you guys down completely. Some of your major industries are going to get shut down because the tariffs are going to be so high. Then the Canadian Prime Minister was like, oh, okay, well, maybe we won't throw the tariff on the electricity. We won't turn those citizens of your country off of their electricity. And it's like, you just changed your story, bro. So there's a part of me that's like, okay, is Trump just playing tough just to show these guys he's not a bully, but then when they concede, he's like, all right, we're good. Don't have to have a tariff at all. Like it's almost like he's playing the hard ball to get the softball. Because it's kind of like that old adage, if you shoot for the stars and hit the moon, it's better than shooting for the moon and hitting a rock. Like he's shooting for the stars and he's getting the moon. And that's basically really where he really wanted. In sales, that's
the deal, right? It's the art of the deal. He's
ask for
throwing
more
out
and negotiate less.
He wants a steak dinner, and he's throwing out, I'm gonna steal your entire herd for $1 if you don't agree to this. And they're like, whoa. And all he really wants is a steak dinner, right? And then they're like, okay, what if we do this? And it'll go back and forth until it's a cow, and then he's like, oh, that's it, I'm going for it. And they're like, wait, what if we just give you a free steak? And he's like, okay, we can play ball with that. Right? He goes so far, it's so crazy. So yeah, is he a madman, or is he a genius, or is he an evil genius and we haven't all figured it out?
The fine line between madman and genius is we're right there at it.
Not blue skinned and big headed, but he's orange skinned and big headed, so he's not quite Megamind. Movie reference there, but he who knows? I don't. It's really fascinating to watch. I feel like the 2025 year, which he calls the golden age that we're entering into, has been the most intense popcorn watching year of I know the last year has only been 2 months, 3 months now, but it feels like it's been longer. It's crazy.
It does. I mean, the days go by crazy fast, yet it already seems like it's been 6 months when it's only been
the end of what you call it. We're at the end of the first quarter of 2025. Like, how do we get there?
Well, one thing I wanted to say before we move away from this particular topic is that the key to the market staying propped up is the credit market or the debt market. If credit stops, everything comes crashing down immediately. Yep. Everything works on credit. And when they say credit is the nice way of saying debt, they're getting loan. People and companies are getting loans to buy their inventory, or to do everything, to pay their payroll. Everything is run off of credit, off of debt. And if that stops even for a moment, the entire system comes down. We are so far over the edge, being propped up with funny money, with the government printing. We see what's happening right now. I think part of all this chaos that's going on is all the federal spending that's being cut. That they're cutting the spending, and that's dollars that are not going into the economy and propping up the economy. So things are starting to collapse because of that. Was an awful lot of dollars going into the economy. And if it even starts to contract, it has to continue to expand. If it contracts, it collapses. So it always has to grow, always has to expand, because there are not enough dollars in existence to even pay for the interest that is due. And I think we all know that. That's just the way that this system works. The U.S. dollar system works. And so and the same is for us consumers as well. Consumers are at a record credit card debt right now. And I know there's a bunch of other metrics as well as student loans and so forth, and are at the highest ever. And if that starts to go the other way, which it looks like it is, then things start to collapse and break down. I mean, remember back to 2008 when the GFC started. Who was it? The central banker that said, if we didn't step in and print all these dollars at the time, that by Monday morning, the entire world economy would have collapsed. That was in 2008. And we are so much further beyond that in debt and obligations and such, so that it is a balancing act, which I don't understand. And it's not meant to be understood by us commoners. And so I think that's the key thing, is that if the economy starts to contract, and that's why they're so afraid of recession. It's contracting, and it will continue to go down much more quickly once that happens, if they don't step in and print like crazy.
True.
Yeah, let me show you this too. This is the national debt. It's the Twitter account for the national debt, and right now it's I remember when I first started this, following the national debt Twitter account, it was just over 17, just under, it was like 18 or 19 trillion was our debt. Let me scroll down here. Do you see that? Today,
36.
2 hours ago, they tweeted the national debt's 36 trillion. I mean, I remember when it was like 18, 19 trillion, and now it's 36 trillion. That's doubled just in my, it's just, and that's not even my lifetime. That's just since I've been following it. You
I
know
think
what I mean?
what I heard is that the government, U.S. government, is going into debt $200 million a day.
Probably an hour. I don't know. It's
200 billion a day.
yeah,
I think
that might make more sense.
200 billion a day, which is mind-boggling. Yeah, cannot comprehend that. Anyway, what do we do about it? That's the question. What do we do about it?
Well, the thing is that if our country is that far gone, so to speak, into debt, there's only one way. I mean, I guess there's a couple of ways out of it. We'll see which ones are more dramatic, but the real big way out of it is just to have a complete reset. And that's what everybody is, that's been on the topic of discussion quite a bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, I feel personally as an individual, the best thing that we can do is not follow the example of our country.
Yep.
And get our finances correct ourselves, and be prepared and be ready for things. Make less money than you, spend less money than you make, get out of debt, credit card. I mean, home mortgage, car loans. If it's secured, okay, keep it and manage it. But definitely unsecured credit, get out of that as fast as possible. Get a strong savings account with some emergency cash in there. Get a food. I told people, I actually did a presentation to my church just recently and said, look, gold and silver is great. Food storage is great. Cash is great. Have some of each. Like if you need 3 to 6 months worth of experts in finance say 3 to 6 months worth of money, cash on hand for emergencies. Well, if you have all cash, that's great. But what if you had all your food in food? Like have 3 to 6 months worth of food in actual food.
Yep.
That way you can actually eat, because most of the people who do have cash, it's in the banking system. Like honestly, most of my reserve money is, I have some money in my at home, but most of my money is in a digital ones and zeros. Like I either need to get that cash in my hand or convert it into gold and hold the gold and silver.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the real options in terms of holding it. I mean, at some point you've got to balance having some. I would recommend, I don't know your individual situation, but I'd recommend at least a month or two's worth of cold hard cash in cash, and maybe another month or two of your spending and your bills in gold and silver.
I'm so bad right now. I'm like, oh, I look at my finances and I go, I've got about a half a month in the bank in cash, right?
The rest in food.
And I've got about 3 years in food, and I got about 6 months in silver.
Nice.
Right. But I'm like, I don't want to leave anything in the bank at all, but I also don't have like cash on hand. I don't have a lot of cash on hand. Like I've got a few $100, maybe.
And I don't either. And, and the reason is, I know I've explained this before, but gold is my savings account. If I need cash, I go get cash. And so I keep very little in the bank and cash on hand. I'm a little bit more pessimistic than you, Paris, and having actual cash on hand. I think is when the collapse happens, there won't be any time to go and actually get dollars. There won't be any time to do anything really. It's going to be, the bank is going to have control of everything. There are bail-in laws, and whatever's in your account is now theirs, and they owe you shares, and you'll get paid back whenever they can, essentially. And so, it is a balancing act. It's not easy to figure out exactly where each one of us should be.
Yeah, that's why it's in personal finance is personal. Yeah. And if you want to chat with me, hit me up and we'll talk about what to do. But I was listening to a guy the other day, and he was talking about how if you really think about how the elite have managed to use words to create this whole system, and he says money is called currency. And if you think about a river, the way that the water is flowing is called the current. And then on the river, what do you call where the river ends and the land begins?
Banks.
Bank.
A bank. And so what is that? What are the earth on either side of the river controls the flow of the currency.
Mhm.
So the banks control the flow of the currency. And so what's going to happen with the currency? We'll see, but the banks are the ones who control all of that. And so if you want to have control, you need to either be your own bank, which is possible, or have everything out of the banks, or recognize that, hey, you know what? I'm in the system. I'm going to let the bank manage some of my money or use some of my money for or currency.
Mhm.
And you know that if things go sideways, you may lose it. If you're okay with that risk, keep going. If you're not okay with that risk, let's reevaluate. Let's time to think about what you can do personally to be in a better place. And I think soon, I don't know about right now, but very soon, Scott, you had a question from one of our listeners.
Yeah,
About
I think
how
now
to
is the
spell.
perfect time.
I think
for it.
that'd be a good time or soon would be a really good time to open that question and answer it.
So the question was, how do you actually spend, once you've amassed some gold and silver, how do you actually spend it? So I'm going to give you a real world experience that I had to have. I bought a whole bunch of silver years and years ago that I then sold mostly almost 85% of to get by. After I got out of real estate and sold a business, and then the payments didn't come through on that business and that fell apart. And I was working for a company who then didn't pay me for 6 months. I know I should have bailed right away, but I tried to help him fix his business. But I lost a ton of money real fast. All my income was gone. And I'm like, oh crap, what do I do? I took my silver every week to different exchange places, gold and silver stores, basically. I don't know what you call them, but basically just a silver shop, coin shops. I even tried a pawn shop to see what they would give me. They give you crap.
Mhm.
But the facilities that I went to, they could only buy so much back per day in cash. They could give you a check, but they could only buy so much back per day with cash. So the first time I went, I tried to drop about $5,000 worth of silver, and the guy's like, I can't do that in one day. You'll have to come back in 3 days to do the other half. And I'm like, you can't do 5,000 in one day? And he goes, no, I can't. And I'm like, is it because you just don't have enough cash on hand, or is it because of policy? And he's like, it's both. He's like, our policy limits it, but cash on hand also is the other condition. If you come in earlier in the day, I can give you more, but after noon, when prices adjust and kind of stabilize for the day, we don't give out as much. But we'll take as much money as you want to bring us. We just won't turn that money back into the market the same day. And I was like, that's really interesting. Went to another place. They had a similar policy. It was less. And I'm like, oh. I've probably, let's see, I went to 6 different places to sell my silver over a period of 8 months. And the place that could give me $2,500 at a time was my favorite. The banks, they won't take your silver and gold normally.
At least not at the actual,
crisis,
not at the precious metal value. They'll only take it at face value, unfortunately.
Well, even when I was selling my metals back, they won't give me the value of it then either. They have to reduce. They have a buyback discount when they buy your silver or gold from you. So they reduce it. I'm not using the right terminology. Shane can probably correct me at this afterwards. But the thing was, I couldn't take my gold or silver to the bank, even though in Utah, the law is they have to accept it as legal tender. But they couldn't give me fair market value for it. It was like 10 to 12% less. And they couldn't give me cash. They could only give me credit for it in the bank. And I'm like, so when could I get the money out? And they're like, it takes about a week. But if I was paying a debt, they would accept it as legal tender for market value. That's it. Those are my options. So if I'm paying off a debt, they'd let me give it to them. Problem was, I didn't have a debt to pay off. If I did, I'd have used it
Yeah.
because that'd have been better, right? I'd have lost less money on it. But I was up still on my silver like 20% from when I bought it. So I'm like, yeah, I'm better off. This is why I bought it, to help me through the horrible times. I just didn't expect the horrible times to be that early on, right? Since then, I haven't had to. I've been slowly rebuilding that supply. But in a real world scenario, banks aren't going to give you cash in exchange for gold in a falling market. The only places that are going to do it are places like the coin shops, but they're going to be limited. You're going to have to find people that are like-minded that you'll be able to use it as an exchange medium with until everyone's forced to use it. So there's limited time frames for each of those in a falling economy. However, after the economy is completely decimated, what happens? We all need to figure out a new monetary system.
Well, we know
historically it's always been the same. They always go back to the gold standard.
Yeah. And we know a reset's coming. And from what I understand, all the resets we've seen all throughout time, it has been gold that has been the backing of the next currency, right? Whatever the new currency, it's always been gold. And gold still backs the currencies now, even though they say it doesn't. And that's why banks buy it. That's why countries buy it. And they've been buying like crazy. And to your point, Scott, that is one of my concerns is, yes, my savings is gold and silver, but everybody transacts in dollars. I need dollars. How do I get dollars? And when it goes to a digital currency system, how do I get digital currency from gold or from silver? That is still questionable. Who knows how that's going to happen coming down the road? But I believe, and I've said a million times, I think there will be the new digital currency, which the EU actually just came out and said, we're ready. We're ready to launch a new digital currency. We know we told you we weren't working on it, but we've been working on it for 5 years, and now we're ready to launch this. So I guarantee you the U.S. is probably pretty darn close as well. And so I think that's probably some of the thing that's happening. Anyway, so with our limited time here, Scott, you're absolutely right. I think we do need to have a way to get dollars. And the coin dealers are limited because they're small. Our local coin dealers are typically pretty small. And they kind of bank on their wholesalers buying excess silver and gold from them that they can't sell at retail locally. If they're buying, they run out of money, right? Yep. So they have to turn around and sell that at a discount to their wholesaler. And so they have to pay you less for it. That, it's all business transaction. They got to make money. And so once the system does collapse, yes, how are we going to get digital dollars? Who knows how this is going to pan out? I think there will be, just like in every scenario, it gets figured out, right?
And Shane, so, didn't you buy a gun recently where you used part of that purchase for
absolutely. There are certain. There's one particular gun shop who's also kind of like a pawn shop, and so they accept it kind of as a pawn. That's this kind of the law, the rules that they follow. And so, I walk in with gold. They give me spot or a slight discount on spot, but depending on how much the premium is. To your point there, Scott, if the premium's really high, like it was during COVID, then they may still give you a premium over spot, just less of a premium. But if it's a small premium, they may give you spot and no premium or slightly less than spot. It really depends on the supply and demand. Well, so there's still a lot of questions on how we're going to use that, but it's going to be barter at some point. Yeah. Direct barter.
I've since learned, though, that you can actually go to a gold exchange or just any gold or silver coin shop, right? You can sell them your gold and silver. They only have a limit of cash on hand per their policy. They can buy as much gold and silver as possible, but then they'll wire you the funds, right? Those funds could take
how liquid they are,
up to 3 days to transfer.
Yeah,
but
I just did.
How are you going to get that out of the bank, though, still, if there's a major problem?
Yeah.
Well, my wife and I were going over our finances this last weekend, and we were thinking about where should we invest as we moving forward. And I shared with her how much our gold has grown in the last year and a half. And it's about 50% actually. So similar to what the stock market did And I told her, I said, hey, look at this percentage. We went from this amount to this amount, and I haven't bought any more since. So it wasn't like I bought more. It was just the value went from, what it was when I bought it to now. And that was actually just a year. It was, if I went back further, it would be even bigger percentage, because I only went back a year and a half ish. And she was like, yeah, let's buy more gold and silver. And so I was like, yeah, I got my wife, because I showed her the numbers. I said, the value in December of 23 was this, the value today is this. And she was like, that's a significant increase. And I'm like,
and now think about the people who saw when gold was at $2,000 an ounce. They're saying, it's too expensive. And now look at it. We're almost 3,000 an ounce.
Yeah.
And so
I remember buying,
it was 2,000 an ounce, right?
The first few ounces I bought were at 1,500 an ounce. So
that will continue to happen. It will continue. There are professional economists out there saying it could go to 10,000 overnight in a snap. Because of everything that's happening out there, it could, the system market, the system could break, and you could be 100,000. There's those numbers are being thrown out there by people who know what they're talking about. So
I think just really quickly to touch on it, because we've talked about it before on our channel, and this is up to you. You make your choice if you want to do precious gold bullion, or if you want to do Goldbacks. But Goldbacks is an answer to how you can spend gold on a day-to-day, more of a day-to-day basis, because it's in fractional shares. It's very fractional. They brought it down to as low as $2 or $3 in terms of value across. They brought the fractions of gold down to so low that you can actually buy something that's only valued at a $2 or $3 of fiat currency. So
1/2000th of an ounce.
Yeah, they have a half. Yeah, 1/2000th of an ounce is their lowest denomination right now. And so the Goldbacks, if you want to buy any Goldbacks, check the description below. There's a link for us to be able to support the show if you want to get some Goldbacks. But those are something that you might have on hand for bartering and trading. It seems like a viable. They're trying to get it to be functioning now as a viable currency, and they're making some pretty big strides. It's still kind of it's still kind of a strange, kind of on the fringe, kind of a thing, but it's capturing attention quite on a regular basis. So it's growing. We'll see.
And it's real. It's tangible.
Yeah, I like it. So that's one of the things too. My wife's like, go buy more of that. I'm like, okay. So
don't pull my arm. Don't.
Anyways, we've got just, did we answer the question? Hopefully we did. Whoever asked the question, please check back with us to make sure if you feel like we answered it sufficiently. If you want to know more about some of our ideas on how to spend gold and silver, or how to really stack it properly, hit us up. We'd be more than happy to chat with you about it in our group, especially. We get some good discussion going on over there. That'd be awesome. But any last final thoughts, guys, before we close it down?
Well, I think there are definitely other ways to spend gold and silver. And I'll go ahead and start a chat over there on the emergency prep and self-reliance to talk about the different ways. Because, we can really expound into the details there.
Great idea. So this conversation will be continued over on Facebook, guys. Come join the conversation.
Awesome. Well, you've been listening to Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded, the podcast for the prepared, and we're super excited. Speaking of gold and silver, check out our link in the description below. Sorry for you guys who are listening. You're going to have to go find some way to click a link if you're driving, but if you click the link in the description below, it's Alpine Gold. I think it's alpinegold.com/REF for referral /Prepper Talk. That's a long one. I'm sorry, but if you want to buy some Goldbacks, that's a great way to do it and to support the show. And we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
See you next week.